afraid of the dark, and spiders under my bed. I got some trust issues, and I hate to say it, but I'm a real hothead. Is there anything else that I could conclude? Are mom and dad to blame for my bad attitude? In one ear and out my head, I never heard it when my parents said, do as I say, not as I do. Now I'm messed up cause I learned it from you. Do as I say, not as I do. Now I'm messed up cause I learned it from you. Yeah.
I don't care. If that's how you want to treat you treat someone how you want to be treated. Well, if that's how you want to be treated, then I'm scared, okay? We need to talk to somebody. Oh my gosh. These kids are on fire lately. I don't know. They got a bunch of energy apparently because they've gone back to school, which is great. It gives me time to do this and record the interviews and get done. But they just got home and now they're at different schools and they're just regardless. Welcome back, I hope. If not, welcome for the first time to I Learned It From You. As you know, I am Zach Martina. I don't know why I'm introducing myself today. It's all over the graphics. It's all over after every other episode. You know exactly who I digress. Okay, here's where I am today. We've got one of my best friends. I stood in his wedding, and he came to mine. He would have stood in mine, but it was just my brother and cousin. So we did a very small thing. We did a destination, but it's Adam Degi, ladies and gentlemen. Truly one of the highlights anytime you hear about Michigan comedy. He is absolutely tremendous, but we'll get into that. That's what the interview's about. It's a lot of fun. What we need to talk about right now is confessional time. And I'll be honest with you, my interview with Adam, I mean, more of a conversation. We talk every day, but it was just, it reminded me of something that I would share with you. I was maybe 8th grade. I would say 9th grade, 8th or 9th grade. I was coming of age. I was a young boy becoming a man. And by that, I was trying to ejaculate on the regular. I had a mind full of impure thoughts and a sack full of semen, and I had to get the poison out of me. Masturbating allowed me to relieve both. And then I got to the point where, like, my imagination just wasn't doing it enough for me. So I had to have some sort of video. But before I got to video, by the way, just so you know, what really did it for me growing up, I don't know what it was about the video, but it was that black and white video that TLC did. Maybe, I think it was on Crazy Sexy Cool. I don't know. But that video really revved my engine in all of the right ways. That said, before I got to video, I did stills. I did photographs. And I didn't do magazines because I didn't have some older friend who would pick them up for me. I didn't have an older brother or an older cousin. I just had my resources, which were the internet, right? But my internet was downstairs in my basement where I was just exposed. Everybody could see me. If they just happened to walk down the stairs, you'd see just right there, right? So what I did was I would get these stills and then I would go and I would print them. And I would take them up to my room and I would, as I said before, get the poison out. Now, one time I was printing a photograph to help me with what I needed help with, and I'm here. It's printing, and it's an early 2000s, so it's a slow printer. It's really taking its time, just like type. The picture was coming, but not fast enough. And I heard my mom coming downstairs. Now, this is exactly why I would masturbate in my room, because anybody could come down at any time. But my mom was coming down, and I was like, oh my God, it's in the middle of a print. She's going to see exactly what's happening, right? So I try to turn it off. It won't turn off. I try to just rip the thing out. It won't rip out for whatever reason. I think my hand slipped off of it. So I unplugged it. And then I blew my own cover. Oh, hey, what's going on, Mom? Everything good? No? And she's suspicious immediately. So what does she do? She takes the cord that is just dangling there, which is never the case. It's just dangling there. Like, why are you in front of the computer with a cord that's unplugged? I don't know. So she plugged it back in, fucking computer was still on, but then the printer fired up and it finished. It finished printing the image of a buxom lady, just in a very. You could have used this picture to teach the anatomy and physiology of the female form. I mean, everything was on display, and not just like it was spread out, if you will. You could point and be like, that's this and that's that, and the labia and the majora and the vagina and all that. Like, it was there, and you could point it out. It was crazy. And my mom ripped it out, and she just looked at it and just stared at me. And my dad's name, Rocky, as you may have been privy to from previous episodes, she's looking at this image, and all of a sudden she looks at me with just this death eye, and then turns her head to the steps and just goes, Rocky! My dad comes barreling down. He comes down, she hands him the picture, he looks at the picture, and you can see like the faintest glimmer of a smirk on his face, like, yeah, my boy's got good taste, I guess. I don't know what that is. Like, he's like, we're into the same thing. I don't know. He never had that conversation with me, because immediately what he did was he realized he had to take my mom's side on this, because at the time they were happily married. Sure, it didn't end that way, but at the time they were happily married. So they had to present a united front, and he just ripped the picture in half and laid into me about how I need to respect his rules whenever I'm under the roof, and that is not tolerated. And he's just ramping up, screaming, yelling at me like he's so disappointed. But I do remember the smirk that he had. So I'm like, is he really? I'm very confused, and my mom is on the verge of tears. Like this was never going to happen. Like her baby boy was just never, ever going to grow up. Well, guess what, Mom? He grew up and he's got tastes. Okay. So I'm going through it. My dad's laying into me, and finally he's had enough. He can't handle it anymore. He's like, you know what? Get in the goddamn car. And I'm like, oh shit. He's going to like take me out and beat me with a belt. He's going to have me choose my own switch. He's going to have like the reason my hair is so bouffant and puffy is because as a punishment as a young child, he would make me lick 9-volt batteries, and it just never went down. So my dad would always get creative with his punishments. I thought he was going to beat the shit out of me. He gets in the car. I get in the car. I'm looking dead forward. I'm terrified. I don't even know what's going to happen. We get out of my driveway. We pull off of my street, and he just puts the car in park, and he looks at me and he goes, listen, it's natural. We've got urges as men. It's important that you never act on them unless it is a consensual act. And honestly, just don't do that when your mom's home. Okay, I'll take you to the titty club when you're 18, but just don't do that when your mom's home. And then he took me to get ice cream, which seems like a little bit of a childish reward. Like, you take a kid to get ice cream when he gets a good grade or she gets a good grade in elementary school, not when you've come to know what your son's into and how he's risking one off. But that's my story. That's how my dad handled things. And you know what? It stuck with me because I can remember it vividly. And here I am telling you it in detail. I've always tried to respect the ladies. I've never got into anything that was not consensual. And I feel like I've turned into be a pretty good young man. Side note, when my dad found out I was sexually active, my mom, similar to the picture, found a condom wrapper, calls my dad down. And by this, they weren't as happily married. So he was like, my mom's like, look at what your son's doing. And she held up a condom wrapper. And my dad just looks at me and he goes, it's better to wear one than not to. You and your brother are perfect examples. And then he and I laughed, and then he went upstairs, and I proceeded to hear an argument through the walls of my childhood home. But that's it. That's the confessional for this week. Fond memory, no doubt about it. But now I think it's time to get into the interview, and I'm excited about it. Like I said, it's a conversation. It's one of my very, very good friends. It's one of the top comics out of Michigan. I really love watching him every time he is on stage. His name is Adam Degi. He has got one album already out. It's called His Name Is My Name Too. And after his battle with cancer, and he's just been fighting it, and a real inspiration and a trooper, he's recorded a second album called Limp Nodes. He'll spell it on the episode, but I will hear for you. Limpnodes. A little play on lymph nodes. It's called Lymph Nodes, and it will be out October of 2021. I'm not the best host. I'm still learning this. Real quick, let me plug my dates. I was supposed to be on Tucson. Couldn't happen. I had a conflict, and fortunately they were understanding. I'm hoping to be back in Tucson in 2022. COVID took out my Charleston dates, but I've been assured I'll be back in 2022. October 1st, 2nd, and 3rd, I'm going to be in Chicago at the Comedy Bar, which is going to be a lot of fun. And then October 22nd and 23rd, I'm going to be in the Ann Arbor Comedy Showcase, open up for none other than the Sklar Brothers. So you're definitely going to want to check that one out. And then on into November, we've got November 12th and 13th. I'm going to be at the Laughing Tap in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And then on the 19th and 20th, I will be at Planet of the Tapes in Louisville, Kentucky. But that's enough. Again, follow Adam at Adam Degi on all social media and enjoy this week's episode of I Learn It From You. Here he is, Adam Degi. Hey there. Hi there. All right, so this is it. We're getting there, and through the technological tutorial, you're looking at, obviously, a Detroit Pistons superfan. I'm a super fan of his. He's a good friend of mine, and it's Adam Degi. How are you, buddy?
I'm fantastic. I'm better now that the Pistons have given me reason to hope.
That's all. I mean, if Barack Obama said it best, right? Just hope. Just the one word.
That's all you can ask for.
You're looking fit. You're looking trim.
It's the dark hoodie, but thank you.
The dark hoodie. It's the
you
brightest blue.
You look fantastic as well, bud.
Well, I'm wearing black and it's slimming. And also, I mean, with this headband on, it just makes it look like I've got a Miracle Grow's worth of hair coming from underneath, and this is the only way to stop it.
Yeah, you look a little more aerodynamic with that.
You just see me on the pickleball court, man. This baby on. Woo, back and forth.
God, don't even start with the pickleball stuff.
Pickleball is a dad's game, a mom's game, and whenever it happens, you're going to be playing too. We're going to be bouncing it off the paddle.
Like all the comics I've known for the longest, for whatever reason, have fallen in love with that game.
Pickleball is the shit, dude. Okay, you get to hit it's a smaller tennis court. It's more suited for my my range of motion, and I like the way the ball sounds off the paddle. It sounds a lot like a very fit ass being paddled in some S&M shit.
You're pretty quick laterally then?
I'm pretty quick laterally. I got when I used to play softball with my friends, I would run and I would have these little tiny steps. And every time I'd be running the bases, because I'm such a big guy with these short legs, every time I'd be running the bases, they'd be like, I look like a circus freak.
That sounds like a noise people would make for an athlete for sure.
I think it was just because I was so deceptively fast. You could have sold tickets to see my shit, you know?
All right, I'm in.
But here we are. It's the 5th edition. I could not be more thrilled to have you on. Of I Learned It From You. And buddy, I just wanna talk about like we're at the family dinner table and just tell some stories. I, for one, have been going through. My kids have just gone back to school, which is great because for the last year I have been homeschooling them. Said, they have been back for 3 days, and I have already emailed the teachers a number of times saying, that's not how I taught it at home.
Well, I understand the want to do that, I guess, but I feel like they know what they're doing, Zach.
I mean, they've got a degree, and I dropped out of college and ultimately ended up telling people about stretch marks on my dick. So yeah, they're definitely more qualified.
Let me ask you this, and I don't want to start off on a tangent, but
that's the best way to start.
Do your daughters go to school with any kids with crazy parents who think we don't live in a free country anymore because they asked their kids to wear masks?
Oh, absolutely. We live right up the road from our school, like where the school board meetings and everything take place. Right before school started, the week before school started, they had a meeting where Cars were just lining all of the streets around my house. They had 11 police officers because of the number of, I guess, not quite riots, but you could call them riots that have been breaking out about this whole mask thing. It's absolutely asinine.
Wow.
And
I guess it's only happening here.
Yeah, it's only here in America, which, I mean, honestly, it's this stance that is making it so that, you know, countries in Europe and across, they're like, no, you can't travel to America. It's what right when we get out. I don't know. I think I thought when 45 got voted out, things would just magically be better and our reputation would be fixed. And then now it's like, no, there's going to be some damage control. We're good. I mean, we gotta put some pieces back together.
I might have had that thought for like a half a day, and then I was, rudely reminded that that was very naive for me to think that way. Of course, people are not going to ever let it go, and it's entitlement, man. People confuse rights with privileges, and just want to be up in arms about all the wrong things that aren't really that big of a deal. But let's not get too much into that. Let's talk about some I don't know, something that won't make me as angry.
Well, we're doing this here early in the morning. I just dropped off my daughter at school, and that car ride is always very interesting. Fortunately for me, my kids are pretty good. They're well behaved. They're funny. I get along with them. I think when they're adults, they'll end up being my friends. But there are some days when it's early in the morning and I drop them off, and I am just like, I'll leave you here. Like, you can walk. You know the way. You can walk the rest of the way to school. It's just a matter of my patience. And then I realize, shit, they're 8 and 10. I can't treat them like they're 21-year-olds who know Krav Maga and can just protect themselves.
Hey, man. Never too soon, you know?
What about, how did you grow up? Like, you got a brother? I know you had you grew up with your mom and dad.
I have a lot of siblings, but I have one blood sibling.
Okay.
My older brother and I are 2 years apart. My brother's 2 years older than me, and same dad and mom.
That's what full blood means.
Yep.
What did you mean? You picked up your neighbor and you just cut your palm and you guys shook hands at age 3?
I mean, you never know, but I'm trying to be thorough. You know, I want these people. I don't want anybody to not understand fully. So the one full blood sibling, my brother, and then I've got a half sister who's the oldest sibling, same mother, different dad, and then I've got a younger brother, same mom, different dad.
But different dad than your sister?
I've had several step siblings, but yeah, one sister, 2 brothers.
Your sister and your youngest brother, are they related? I mean, like, I know
just by our mom.
Just by your mom. So they have different dads.
Yes.
Okay.
There's a lot of different dads going on.
Dude, what? So, I mean, you just had an abundance of people vying for the male role model aspect of things?
Yeah. You remember
who was your favorite? I mean, obviously your dad. What's that?
You remember Goldilocks?
Absolutely.
Where, she couldn't find the porridge that was just right. That was the porridge in the Goldilocks story is essentially my mother's vagina.
Is your, I mean, porridge and semen are very similar in, I think, texture. And I just know that from masturbating with my own and then actually having had some oatmeal today. But I water mine down. Is that what
porridge is technically?
I think porridge is just oatmeal. I don't know.
It sounds I think the reason, even growing up, when you heard the term porridge, you just associated it with poverty. I think because the word poor is in it.
Yeah.
But there's I think I felt the same about oatmeal, and now I eat oatmeal all the time. I think it's delicious.
No, I think
so. Maybe porridge just has a bad rap. It's definitely something you could probably make in a large quantity in a big pot and just serve it out to, all the.
It's like cream of wheat.
All the
is porridge. It's
children
definitely
at the adoption home or whatever. But
the orphanage. You think that porridge
is that what it's called?
Yeah. Please, sir, may I have some more? But no, yeah, porridge is, I believe it's essentially just, I'm Googling it right here, same as oatmeal. And
is it like a British thing?
Oatmeal and porridge are basically the same thing. It's what you get when you add milk or water to oats and cook them. Oats, quick oats, oatmeal, and porridge are all high in nutritional goodness.
Well, the porridge doesn't sound bad then, dude. Have you ever had... You make a little oatmeal, preferably for me like a brown sugar or like maple, and then you put a little almond butter in it, and then maybe some sliced banana.
I mean, I would get down on the sliced banana. We don't really fuck with almond butter. We use it's like avocado oil butter. It's vegetarian butter.
Oh, wow.
It's real tasty. But yeah, I would do that. I love a good cut fruit in a breakfast and oatmeal.
Do you mean like I don't mean like butter like margarine. I mean like it's not peanut butter, it's almond butter.
Oh no. The only alternative we have in it's the reason I have this bushy beard to hide the contour of my face. The only alternate to peanut butter we have is cookie butter. Have you had that from Trader Joe's or
yeah,
shit?
I have. That's not really something you want to add to your breakfast unless you are just you're actively trying to be diabetic.
Dude, the difference, you're wrong because it's something you would want to add to your breakfast.
Probably,
it's something maybe you shouldn't.
Yeah, that's the fear.
So did you have, I mean, obviously I know you had a great relationship with your dad and everything, but as far as just a grocery store shelves worth of step parents, did anyone stand out to you? Who stood the test of time? Who's held the closest role to like role model?
As far as my parents?
I mean, obviously I know you're very close with your mom and dad, but like has a stepdad stepped up and played a vital role?
No, that's, in hindsight, I still think my stepdad was an asshole,
Sure. Many people do.
Now that you brought up step parents. But having said that, though, he had reason to be an asshole a lot. Like, you get older, and I kind of hinted at this when we were talking about doing the cast. You get older and you start thinking about things from the perspective of a parent or a step parent as opposed to as the perspective of a child or stepchild. And, like if I would have got home from a long day of work at 3 p.m. and my stepson just woke up and he's eating my cereal, I would have probably been an asshole too.
So, I mean, what was the consequence for him eating his sword?
That specifically, I'm sure that happened. My stepdad had a lot of issues, I think, stemming from his childhood. I think his dad was a pretty big prick. And I mean, there was a lot of things we don't need to get into. Sure. In that brief marriage that turned into like a 10+ year relationship after marriage. And I'm sure there's things he could have done differently. There's things my, actual parents could have done differently. But I don't know. You get older and you realize your childhood wasn't as bad as maybe you thought.
I think the benefit of the perspective as an adult, especially when you've got little ones that are all around, it's the things your parents said when you were growing up made sense. And I think this will be a recurring theme on this podcast. There is no doubt about the fact that everyone needs therapy and it's your parents' fault. Like,
oh my God. Right. And I mean, when you're in the heat of the battle raising children, you probably just don't, you don't think about it. I mean, I don't think most parents aren't like making a conscious decision to try to fuck you up mentally. It happens. But I mean, if there's any parents that like say, oh yeah, we did everything perfect or the right way, there's nothing I would have done differently. I mean, give me a break, so it's definitely anybody that has issues. It probably is stemming from their parents, unless they were in like war or something.
Any parent that is telling you that they didn't do anything wrong or they wouldn't change, like those are the parents that defend their kid when they decided to just GHB somebody.
Those are the parents that are booing the kids at these city meetings that are like pro-mask. Those are those parents that think everything they're doing is good for their kids and they know better than anybody else and they're smarter than anybody else, including people who have literally dedicated their lives to studying something they think they're smarter than. So I guess those parents definitely do exist.
And I think
but they seem to be wrong more often than they're right.
One thing, too, that I think goes into that is a lot of parents aren't willing to have the real conversations with their kids. Like Emily and I really, really try with our kids to be completely honest, just be upfront with them, because quite frankly, if you're going to baby them, I mean, the world is a bad place. Like for all the good in it, there is more darkness than there is light. So we always try to be...
I was going to ask, do you guys don't have a swear jar, do you?
No, our rule in the house is our kids are allowed to swear if they want to. The only rule is that they have to be able to define the curse word and then give me 2 other ways to say it. So they need to give me 2 synonyms for shit or 2 synonyms for fuck, and then they can say it. They can swear all they want because I think it needs to. I think it takes the power away from the word. I just don't want them to sound like idiots. Like we were sitting down to dinner one night and we're just sitting there, and Lena, my youngest, was probably 6, and we're just eating, spaghetti or whatever it is, and she goes, I think I know what fuck means. And I go, I just like my fork just clinked on the plate, and I go, okay, tell me what it means. And she goes, it means to make love to someone, or to, because we had already had the sex talk with them, so they were privy on all that information. She goes, I think fuck means to make love to someone or to wish curses upon. And I go, okay, what are 2 other ways to say it? And she goes, to have sex with someone or to say screw you. And I go, you can say fuck all you want. You know exactly what you're talking about.
It's just, well, especially coming from like the perspective of a comedian, I've only ever been told I can't say so many things on shows, but I mean, from the beginning, like you shouldn't use too much profanity, especially for certain shows. And that's the first thing that comes to mind when you think PG-13 or like family friendly is obviously the first thing you don't want to say is curse words, profanity, which is just, it's crazy to me. We still give the power to these words. When in the grand scheme of things, there's 1,000 things that are going to make your kid more of an asshole later in life than using profanity. Like instead of a swear jar, I used to talk about it on stage, you should have like a homophobia jar or a racism jar. Like every time your parent or somebody says something racist around the house, you put $1 in there. And then, a lot of kids could have had their college paid for because their parents were such racist fucks. But it's just, or what if obviously you're not encouraging them to use profanity, but at the same time, like anything that you try so hard to keep your kid away from, they're going to have the curiosity and almost be more prone to, use that later in life.
Well, I mean,
or explore that later in life. So
it's the old. I
don't know what the fuck I'm talking about either, but this is just speculation.
It's the old idea that if you tell someone not to do something, they're only going to want to do it.
Exactly.
my Lena has gotten really into country music lately. She just thinks it's super catchy. All the songs she hears are like upbeat and she's having fun with them. And I'm like, listen, when you get like all the songs are just about whiskey and beer and tequila and everything. And I'm like, listen, when you get older, you can definitely drink, but like it can ruin your life. I'm not going to tell you not to do it, but and she's like, yeah, no, I get it. Like, just have the conversations with them. What happens when you go on and you're telling everybody since you're 10 years old that like, oh no, don't, everything's fine. You know, oh, this is just daddy juice. It's no big deal. And then all of a sudden they're 18 and you try to have the real conversation with them. And it's like, you've been fucking lying to me.
Yeah, no, it's not just, it's not just for partying or having a good time. And, it's not just a country song lyric for sure. It could be no bueno.
No bueno. And the biggest thing we've had to talk about with them is social media. Like, hey, listen, we live in a time where that camera is always rolling, whether it is a still photograph or a live video, what have you. But the internet is written in ink, and that shit will be seen by everybody.
Yeah.
So if it's not
an awful, weird, like the conversations you have to have with kids now, or the things kids have to learn now, compared to even 10, 15, 20 years ago is so wild. I mean, the fact that kids have, active shooter drills and they have to deal with like finding out they weren't invited to a party via Facebook or social media, like that is a whole nother realm of just, awfulness that I commend you for seemingly handling well. It sounds like, at least.
Dude, there is so as far as active shooter drills go, I told you the school board building is right up the road from us. That's where but there's also the soccer fields there. That's where, the lacrosse teams for the city play and the soccer teams play. One day, a couple years ago, all of a sudden, they didn't tell us what was happening. Anyone on the block, all of a sudden, we just hear EMSs blazing down our street. Police cars, fire trucks, everybody kind of like gets out because the authorities aren't shepherding you back into your house. So we're like, what's going on? We work our way down to the soccer field and there are just seemingly, 20 to 25 bodies with sheets over them on the friggin' field. And we come up to I'm like, what is going on? What is going on? Do we need to lock this down? Is everything going to be okay? And this officer who's like overseeing the whole thing comes in. He goes, it's an active shooter drill. I'm like, put a goddamn leaflet in my door.
Yeah.
This is fucking ridiculous.
There should definitely be like an alert on your phone or something for that if it's in with like a 10-mile radius. Let me know.
Absolutely. It was crazy. And my daughters are just like seeing it. We don't know what's happening because they can see it out their window. They think like that's the stuff nightmares are made of. We talk so honestly with our kids that they never had dreams about witches or werewolves or monsters. Their dreams, their nightmares revolved around windowless white vans. Mm-hmm. Because that's what you got to do. You got to teach.
It's people, I always hear like friends or relatives' dads talking about how they used to bring their like rifle to school and have it in their locker to go hunting after school. So, I mean, like, you used to just be able to literally bring a gun to school, but we didn't have mass shootings then. So what changed, This is, we could do a whole nother podcast just on this, but obviously, and a lot of it probably does come down to parenting for sure. Or just easy access because your
social
uncle
media.
or dad or mom has a gun.
And social media. Without a doubt. People getting bullied, ridiculed. Honestly, when this whole school year started, and my daughters, we gave them the option, but obviously we like to think that we had educated them well enough. We gave them the option as to whether or not they wanted to wear a mask. And they're like, we're definitely going to wear a mask. And we're like, I wonder if they're going to get bullied at school because of the decision that they made. And they didn't. Ultimately, so many people, like, I guess a couple people have asked my daughters, why are you wearing a mask? And they just said, because that's the choice that my family and I decided to make after talking about it. And they're like, oh, okay.
Good.
So like no bullying, but man, it was a real concern.
And I feel like the people who are anti-mask are much more likely to be aggressive. Or I feel like those of us who do wear masks, like even if I, when it was mandatory to wear masks inside everywhere, if somebody wasn't wearing one, you'd usually just kind of roll your eyes, and I would never approach a stranger for the most part, unless he was like in my wife's face or something. But yeah. I mean, other than a store or like establishment telling you just can't come in because you don't have a mask and creating a scene, it's usually the other way around. The people giving you shit for. I mean, there's a ton of places I've stopped, in rural Michigan and gone in a gas station with a mask on. Not so much now, but before when, things were worse, and people would look at you crazy like you didn't have pants on because you were wearing a mask, which is just. It all depends on what you're listening to, what you're watching, who is in your ear, and, what you believe, obviously. And then when you have the aspect of politics, and some people, despite the fact that literally the rest of the world is doing the same thing, that somehow it has something to do with Biden and the liberals of America. It's just wild, man.
It's funny when you're in rural America, like you mentioned. I've been out on the road and the very same rural America you're referring to, and people come up to me and they're like, "You don't have to wear that mask. Like we're not about that here." And I go, "Oh no, I have to wear it. I have COVID." And they're like, "Oh shit, keep that on. Keep that on." Like if there's a threat that it's like, "Oh no, COVID doesn't exist," until you tell someone you have it, they're like, "Oh no, it's real. It's very, very, very real."
Yeah, it'd be like the equivalent of that would be like something as far as comparing it to, living in fear like they think you are. It'd be like if you walked up to somebody who was open carrying with like a pistol and you were like, "Hey, you don't have to have that gun on you." The chances of you needing that gun are pretty rare.
Yeah.
I wonder how they'd handle that.
To play devil's advocate, they're like, "Oh no, I thought maybe I'd have to shoot you." It's from the COVID aspect, But speaking of shooting, as far as I know, your dad walked in on you masturbating one time. Tell me about that.
Oh wow! I thought we were gonna save this for the end.
We're halfway through, baby, and we got 4 stories to get through, all of which I handpicked from the list you gave me because I really want to hear about it.
So this was actually early on in my career as a masturbator.
How early are we talking? How'd you start?
I actually got a late start. We can't turn the podcast into this, but I think I was actually a late bloomer. I mean, I didn't hit puberty till pretty late in life. It was probably like the summer between my sophomore and junior year or something. So, I mean, some people in like 7th, 8th grade, right? 6th grade, I don't know. But, and it probably had happened or started and I didn't really realize it. But anyway, I had to be 19. I wasn't 21 yet. I was living with my old man. He had a computer room. And I wasn't on the computer. He actually my brother had like a small flat screen in there just hooked up to a DVD player. And I had a DVD. This should tell you what time frame we were here in America because it was a DVD. And he, it was the same situation as I'm sure a lot of people have experienced where like you think somebody's going to be home at a certain time and they just happen to come home early that day. And I'm sure he just opened the door and just immediately just turn around and then later, he gave me this spiel about like which I'm sure is different with a lot of dads. I mean, I'm sure some dads just walk in and they're embarrassed and then that's the end of it. But my dad gave me like this whole thing about how, pornography rots your brain and stuff. But I think he was doing it from like a religious or like morality perspective. Which I get, but in hindsight, like I wish he would have been like, listen, this is, obviously a lot of people are doing this, but it can have bad effects on your brain as far as like, women in the real world don't like things like that, or or they're not going to, bleach their buttholes, things of that nature. And also it really isn't good for your brain over time, but
Well,
it
porn
was
or
awkward,
masturbation?
obviously. And then I remember I like snapped the DVD in half, like an embarrassment. And it was like, fine, I'll throw it away. And then like literally like 45 seconds later, I was like, that was a stupid decision. Why did you're going to want that tonight.
You're trying to tape it together.
Yeah.
You're like, I don't care if it skips a little bit. I don't care if it skips a little bit. I need to get that shit back in there. Oh, so
stupid.
Did you guys talk about it? I mean, you said he tried to tell you some things, but did you talk about it later in life?
That was kind of both of my parents' MOs, is they would have that initial, like, not even conversation, but just say, hey, I know you're doing this because I either saw or just know, I know you were doing it. And then they'd be like, you shouldn't do that. And here's one reason why, if that, and then we would just never have the conversation again. It'd never come up again.
My mom never walked in on me masturbating, but there's no doubt that she knew I was masturbating because I grew up in a house where
of course she does.
Well, here's the thing. I was fortunate enough to grow up in a house where my mom did my laundry for me until I was 18, and I was pretty liberal.
That's the telltale sign.
I was pretty liberal cleaning up with dirty underwear and used socks. And I mean, when you're going through your son's hamper and you cut your hand because there's some sort of fucking Brillo pad in there, you know exactly what's happening.
Exactly. Once the laundry starts getting a little sharper, when it's got an edge, when things start having a corner and an edge to them, hey, something about this is different.
You're telling, your mom's like, hey, I noticed that your underwears are pretty stiff, rigid. There's a corner and an edge to them. And I'm just the smart ass who's like, do you want there to be an edge to me? Because I can get real fucking irritable if I don't get the poison out of me.
My mother also did the laundry, through my teen years. But she would talk shit though. Like she would, and she knew I joked around a lot and she had a sense of humor. So she would wait until the time was right and she'd embarrass me. Cause she would tell me to clean my room like most moms would. And I would procrastinate to do it until finally she would like go in there and start throwing shit everywhere, and like just putting stuff where I didn't want it. And then I'd finally have to go in there like, mom, I'll do it. And she, I remember my friends were there one time and she literally pulled like a shirt or towel or something from under my bed. And
hey buddy, I lost you as far as picture goes.
Shit. Because speak of the devil, my mother's calling me.
Her ears are ringing, man. She knows you're talking about her.
Wow. Can you see me now?
I can see you now, buddy.
She said something like, I'm sick of having to take care of these, crusty towels or something under your back. I don't know. She basically just put me on blast in front of my friends, and I'm sure they got a real big laugh out of it. But
do you think it would have been better? I mean, I know your dad kind of gave you the morality of it, and not all women like this type of thing as far as pornography goes. Do you think it would have been better or easier or a more open conversation if your mom would have walked in on you? What would you have preferred? Would you have preferred to have had it go the way that it went, or would you have liked to have switched roles and had your mom walk in on you?
I think, for sure your dad.
Yeah?
Because I think my mom would have just been more grossed out. I don't think that she would have had, because it's a totally different act when you're a girl. Like legitimately, like a girl masturbating can be sexy. A man masturbating is who looks sexy. It looks
like
doing
a seizure.
I think even Brad Pitt. Depending on the angle and how he's doing it, you'd be like, I don't know. It's a totally different thing when a especially your teenage son, like, no, it would have been a totally different situation. I think I'd have been more embarrassed,
Okay. I just thought maybe because your mom, you said she had quite a bit of a sense of humor, so I thought maybe she'd be slinging barbs at you. But I know that your dad had quite the sense of humor, as all dads do. A lot of dad jokes get the reputation of just being terrible or corny. But I'm telling you, a well-placed dad joke, an original dad joke, not the cliche like, is your refrigerator running? Oh, you better catch it. Is your face hurting you? Oh, well, it's killing me. Like those are played, they're troped, but a good dad joke, an original thing that like you haven't heard before is my favorite thing.
100%. And I think even if you find them annoying or corny when you're younger, especially if you have, lost your father in the years after you realize you took those things for granted and you appreciate them a lot more. And I'm sure some dads are just really, really unfunny. But my dad was funny, and he was just unique. He was a goofball and a spaz, and like to this day still do a lot of things he did as far as like just blurting out ridiculous words or noises, like almost to the point where I think that I do have a form of Tourette's.
Your headphones just went out.
Son of a bitch! Hold on, I got backup.
Okay. Well, you came prepared, man.
Here's the problem is I gotta stick these things in. Here we go. Anyway.
There you go.
Yeah, he was pretty ridiculous, man, and he did a lot of, I guess, jokes that I still remember. So,
such as
he was he would gosh, I told some of these stories even like at his funeral because everybody knew. I actually want to share. I won't do it today, but he went to high school with this guy who later like wrote this article about him, just about how ridiculous he was. And it's on the internet somewhere. I've got a copy of it. But the dude, he literally slept in a coffin for a while when he was a teenager just to be a weirdo.
Your dad?
Slept in a coffin. And he used to sit. So
what did he say
parents,
about the comfort of it? What did he say about the comfort of a coffin?
I'm sure I asked him about it multiple times when he was still around, and I can't really remember. I know he was just doing it because people knew he was doing it and thought he was weird. So he was just doing it to be an idiot and to just be a weirdo. His parents owned this small motel. And so he literally lived in a room in this motel, and he had like access to the pop machine and like the pool and stuff, which in a lot of ways sounds awesome, but also like if you lived in a hotel room, that would suck.
Right.
But anyway, he would like, I guess, sit in the window and like people would walk by and he would loudly sing that fucking ba 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 ram just to scare people and be a dick. But some of the stories I remember for me is he'd go through a drive-through at McDonald's and have a quarter in his palm. This is an example of a very corny dad joke. And he would take his hand and he would like hit the quarter, like pound it. And he'd ask the person in the window, "What is that?" And he'd say, "A quarter pounder." And my brother and I would just be like, "Dude." Or he'd go through they used to have these booths in the parking lot at Meijer where they would repair chips in your windshield from rocks, and it was rock chip repair. So he'd pull up with a rock that had a chip in it, and he'd be like, "Rock chip repair, could you fix my rock?" So stupid.
But he did that for you. Like he was trying to entertain you.
No, it was 100%. He would go out of his way to try to make us laugh, but also embarrass us. And like he would also. So back in the day when you used to go to the grocery store and your parents would just let you roam.
Yeah.
They'd just be like, "All right, be back here at this time." Or what they used to do is you would just ask like a cashier, somebody at checkout to get on like the phone where it was intercom over the speakers of the store. And they'd say, "Hey, would so-and-so please come to the front of the store? Your parents are ready to leave or they're looking for you." But because he wanted to fuck with us and the person, you know, calling us on the intercom. He wouldn't use our real last name. He would say something really difficult to say and stupid. And he used to say, would Adam and Josh Hebum Beebum please come to the front of store? And so the poor girl or kid at the checkout would be like, Hebum Beebum. And my brother and I would hear and be like, oh God. And we'd come and we'd leave. And he also, for a while, this is a true story, drove around with a mannequin in his passenger seat.
Everything was funny until that's some serial killer shit, dude. I've listened to enough true crime podcasts where there are legitimately
It is different. It is very different.
But like he never see, that's one thing. Did your dad ever offer any reasons for this stuff? Like my dad was, when my dad passed away, we went to his funeral and he had told me about all these people that he knew when I was growing up. I was like, yeah, whatever, Dad. You know somebody that's got like fire just tattooed on their head. Oh, sure. You know the biggest businessman.
Almost like the movie Big Fish.
It was Big Fish. Like the funeral started and then I got there and these people started rolling in. So many people showed up that the fire marshal came and he goes, there's too many people here. We got to shut it down. I'm like, it's my dad's funeral. There's only 45 minutes left. He goes, all right, but be done in 45 minutes. And I could not believe the range of characters that my dad knew. And he just like, he told me he knew these people, but he never told me like really anything about himself or why he did the way he did. Was that like that mannequin thing? Your dad, that's wild.
It's very wild. And he did it. I'm sure half the reason he did it was to creep people out. And he thought it was funny, but I think he thought it was funnier than it was creepy, when in reality it was probably creepier than it was funny.
Sure. He's one of those comics that believe a groan is worth 10 laughs. It's
there's some states that have that carpool lane where people literally did that to drive in the carpool lane. That was definitely not the excuse for my father, because there's no carpool lane in Grand Rapids, Michigan. He was just a weirdo. But yeah, man, ridiculous stuff like that. And he'd walk around at work, because I worked with him for a while, which I'm sure I hated most days, but now I value and appreciated that time we had together. But just, he'd say like ping pong balls, like just randomly. And people would be like, huh? He was a spaz.
Dude, it sounds like your dad and my dad were very similar in that, like, people enjoyed their hijinks, if you will, but ultimately they were just trying to entertain themselves. And they did a good job, because my dad definitely thought he was the funniest guy around.
Yeah, 100%, man. A lot of it was for him. And a weirdo.
That's great, though. I always tell my kids, I go, it's better to be weird than not to be, because being weird is so much more fun.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of real, just normal, boring people,
Yeah. I think that's my biggest fear as a parent, is like just raising these two cookie cutter individuals. I don't want there to be anything cookie cutter about them. I just want them to be flat out individuals.
Right.
And
I'd rather have you be weird than a bad person, for sure.
Absolutely. But then there's that line of weird and bad person where, they drive around with a mannequin in their car and then they slice someone out. That's
exactly. Speaking of I don't know. I guess my dad could have been the Zodiac, now that I think about it, but
you go through some old boxes and you just see a cipher. You're like, oh my God, I can translate all these things. He shouts you out in those letters to the police. He's like, these symbols actually spell out Adam Beebum.
Yeah. I don't think he not organized enough to be the Zodiac killer.
Dude, you were talking about, so we're obviously talking about cars and rides and everything. And there was this one story that you had alluded to that I really, really want to hear, because it's only, I'm looking right now, I'm counting, it's 10, 12, 14, 18 words. And you're like, she should have done way worse than this. The blurb just reads, the time my mom made me get out of her car on the freeway and walk.
Yeah. So my senior year in high school, I went to high school, Whitehall High School, and my mother was living on her own in a townhouse, which is like a 2-story apartment in Muskegon, which is about, I don't know, 15, 20 minutes from Whitehall. So she would get up and drive us to school every morning. And I think she worked in Whitehall, so she had to make the trip anyway. And we had no other way to get there before we had cars. So she was bringing me to school one morning, and it had to be the end of the year. Whenever, when is prom? It's towards the end of the year, right?
Towards the end of the year.
And I was just this ungrateful, spoiled brat that morning. And my mother was a single mom raising, 3 kids, kind of 2 at this point. My brother was a little older, but still. And we got in an argument about like my tux or something that I wanted for prom, and I wanted like a more expensive one or something. I don't know, but I was being a little bitch about it. And it's funny, all these stories somehow revolve around CDs or CD players, but I had a
Discman?
Walkman. Exactly, a Discman. And I'm sitting obviously in the passenger seat of her, it was like a Saturn, I don't know, but I got angry because I wasn't going to get what I wanted, and threw the Walkman. It had no place to go, and it bounced off the dashboard and cracked her whole windshield.
Did she go to the Meyer?
Did you
go to the Meyer booth?
2 stories now. Yeah, I know, exactly. 2 stories now about cracked windshields, but it bounced off the dashboard, hit her window, and cracked the whole thing from corner to corner. And she just stopped on the side of the freeway, and she's like, "Get the fuck out." And I say, she should have done more, because I had no reason to even be upset about this situation, let alone so angry that I threw the Walkman, probably broke the Walkman and cracked her windshield. But I got out of the car. This was in the morning, and I knew it wasn't we passed my buddy Julius's place, not pass it, not on the road. We were on literally the freeway, but I knew the exit you had to take to get to his place, which was kind of in between Muskegon and Whitehall. So I literally just walked, it had to take me an hour and a half to maybe 2. I don't even know how long, a long time. But I literally, took the exit on foot and walked all the way to his house. And luckily he had a back door open. This was before cell phones too, so that I couldn't tell him. I just had to walk all the way there in hopes that his parents wouldn't be there and I could get in the house. And I got in his house and went back to sleep in his basement. And then I'm sure she came and got me later that day. And I maybe I was able to get a hold of him on the internet, but I don't think so at the time. But
and you just made the walk.
She just
with your
made
own
me walk
thoughts
from the freeway, dude.
And you had to walk with your own thoughts because you busted your source of music. So all you can do is exactly what your mom wanted you to do, which is think about what you've done.
The one time I would for sure want the Walkman, I didn't have it. Yeah, and then I know I didn't pay for the windshield. I was just
right. Well, you were too busy. You were too busy saving up for a tux upgrade, right?
Yeah. And then this prom that I went to, I'm pretty sure I was dating this girl, and I got so high before this stupid dance that I didn't even enjoy it. We were probably there for a half hour. It was just what a waste of money and time.
And not to mention the casualties that came of it, your Walkman and your mother's windshield. Right. What was the conversation like when she picked you up later? Did you apologize, or were you that?
I'm sure she was like, "Have you thought about what you've done?" And then I was probably still being a brat and didn't want to swallow my pride. And it probably, she probably had to force me into an apology, but yeah, stupid.
And here she is still calling you a mother's love, huh?
Still calling me for whatever reason. Yeah, still likes me, I guess.
Well, that's great, man. I really appreciate you taking the time out today. I know there were some hiccups the other day. The other day, we were supposed to record this yesterday. I had to pull over on the side of the road and hurl my brains out.
Did you ever figure out what happened?
I think it was just food poisoning, if I'm being honest, because I didn't, nothing coming out the back end, and it was just the one-time throw up. So I felt a little bit better when I woke up, but I was worried. And then I went and did a show last night, and I wish it was something worse, so I could have canceled. That show was fucking brutal. Yeah, not the best. That said, you've got an album coming out, correct? When is that coming out?
In October. I don't know the exact date yet, but next month for sure. So
10 of 21. What's it going to be called? You title it yet?
It is called Limp Nodes.
Limp Nodes.
LIMP, Limp Nodes. Yes, kind of a play on lymph nodes and my situation and all that good stuff. But pretty excited about it.
You didn't have to spell it because you articulated it so well, which is one of the things I love about your comedy. Everybody always knows that's what everybody says about Adam Degi. He's so articulate. He doesn't need to spell anything out. You just understand what he's saying.
Sure.
And then your first album.
I probably talk too fast, but this I can guarantee you that this album is much better than the first.
Which is His Name Is My Name Too?
Yeah.
Adam
the audio's better, the jokes are better. Everything will be better.
Well, that's great because all indications of my albums are the exact opposite. Everybody loved my first album and nobody fucking likes the second one. So I hope nothing but success. Everybody go out there, grab Degi's first album, His Name Is My Name Too, listen to it until October of 21, and then grab Limp Nodes. And then if you are a fan of stand-up comedy, everybody should definitely go see Adam. Follow him on social media at Adam Degi. Catch him there while you can because he is often in social media jail because he just spouts off at the fingers.
I do. It's pretty
buddy,
bad.
I appreciate you very much, and I will talk to you sooner than later. He's at by the time this comes out, the weekend will be over. But have a blast at the Ann Arbor Comedy Showcase this weekend.
I will. Thanks, buddy. I'll be calling you, texting you, and getting a hold of you about dad advice and all different forms of communication. So.
Dad advice. That's what I should have called this podcast, but I didn't, and we're 5 episodes in, so there's no fucking turning back now. I love you. Goodbye.
Love you. Bye.
And that concludes this week's edition of I Learned It From You. And I'll leave you with a little quote that my father used to say to me every single day. Give a person an episode and they listen for a day, but if they rate, review, and subscribe, then they're listening for a lifetime. So I beg of you, please rate, review, tell your friends, and for the love of God, subscribe. I Learned It From You is hosted by me, Zach Martina, with music by Brad Goff, produced by Brett Mercer, and graphic design by Trevor Smith.